The sound of shattering glass echoed through Robert Mitchell's penthouse office as he collapsed to his knees, blood pooling beneath him. The bullet had missed his heart by inches, but as the crimson stain spread across his white dress shirt, he knew this was no random attack. Someone wanted the billionaire dead, and the only person who knew he'd be working late tonight was his most trusted business partner. Through blurring vision, Robert fumbled for his phone, his thoughts not on his empire or his mortality, but on the one person who would be left alone in the world, his daughter Eliza. "Dad, what do you mean you've been shot?" Eliza's voice cracked as she gripped her phone tighter, her college roommate Sophia watching with widening eyes. "The ambulance is coming? Who did this?" Tears streamed down her porcelain face, her long blonde hair falling forward as she hunched over in panic. Everything her father had built, everything they had salvaged after her mother's death 6 years ago, their carefully reconstructed life, was suddenly hanging by a thread. What Eliza didn't know was that her father's near-death experience would unravel secrets about her mother's passing that had been buried beneath Robert's empire of silence. "I need to go to him," Eliza whispered, already packing a bag with trembling hands. The mysterious attack on her father, one of New York's most powerful men, would soon connect unexpected dots between their past and a future neither could have imagined, one that involved Sophia's recently divorced mother, Claire Harrison, the renowned trauma surgeon who would, by fate's design, be operating on Robert that very night. 3 weeks later, Robert Mitchell sat rigidly in his wheelchair on the balcony of his Hamptons estate, staring at the ocean with hollow eyes. At 46, he had the sharp features and athletic build of a man who commanded respect, though now shadows haunted his face. "I don't need another caretaker, Eliza," he said, his jaw tight as his daughter approached. "She's not a caretaker, Dad. Mrs. Harrison is my roommate's mom, and she's doing us a favor while she's between jobs." Eliza pushed a strand of hair behind her ear, her resemblance to her late mother striking in that moment. "The woman saved your life in that operating room. You could at least thank her." Robert turned to face his daughter, his voice low. "The last time I trusted someone, I ended up with a bullet in my chest. Marcus was like a brother to me, and now he's disappeared with half my company's research." The betrayal burned deeper than his healing wound. His business partner had orchestrated the attack after Robert discovered his embezzlement scheme. "The investigation is stalled, my company is in chaos, and you want me to welcome a stranger into our home?" Claire Harrison appeared in the doorway, her auburn hair catching the afternoon light. Unlike the polished socialites who usually orbited Robert's world, she carried herself with a quiet confidence that required no validation. "Mr. Mitchell, I don't expect gratitude for doing my job," she said, approaching with measured steps. "But as your doctor and now your temporary nurse, I do expect you to take your medication. Which, according to Eliza, you've been forgetting since yesterday." Something flickered in Robert's eyes, annoyance, challenge, perhaps a reluctant spark of interest. What he couldn't know was that Claire harbored her own reasons for accepting this position, reasons connected to the hospital board member who had forced her resignation after she reported surgical negligence, a board member whose major financial backer was none other than Robert Mitchell himself. "You don't talk about her, do you? Your wife?" Claire asked one evening, as she changed Robert's bandages. A month had passed, and their initial friction had mellowed into a cautious respect. Robert's muscles tensed beneath her fingers. "And you don't talk about why a surgeon of your caliber is playing nurse to a difficult patient." "Touché." Claire secured the bandage with practiced precision. "Let's just say the medical establishment doesn't always reward integrity. Some powerful men don't like being told they're wrong." Robert studied her face, noting the determination in her eyes. "And some powerful men recognize talent being wasted." He shifted uncomfortably. "I made some calls. The allegations you made against Dr. Whitmore were substantiated by 3 other staff members after you left." Claire froze. "You investigated me?" "I investigate everyone who enters my life. Especially now." His voice softened unexpectedly. "What happened to you was wrong. When I'm back on my feet, I want you as chief surgical resident at Mitchell Memorial." Before Claire could respond, Eliza burst into the room, her face pale. "Dad, they found Marcus. He's back in New York and threatening to release information about Mom's death, saying it wasn't an accident." Her voice broke. "What is he talking about?" The room fell silent as Robert's face drained of color. The walls he'd built around his past were beginning to crumble, and as his eyes met Claire's, he realized she would soon be entangled in the darkest chapter of his life, one he'd sworn would remain buried forever. "Your mother didn't die in a sailing accident," Robert confessed late that night, as Claire and Eliza sat across from him in his study. Outside, security teams patrolled the property, protection against Marcus's escalating threats. "She was helping the FBI investigate corruption in my company, corruption I was unaware of until it was too late." Eliza's hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. "She was, what? All these years you let me believe that I was the grieving widower who threw himself into work? It was easier than admitting I was the fool who didn't see what was happening in my own company." Robert's voice cracked with rare emotion. "Marcus discovered she was gathering evidence and arranged the accident. By the time I pieced it together, the FBI had built a case against him, but he fled the country. I've spent 6 years rebuilding the company, making it legitimate, while hunting for him." Claire reached for Eliza's hand as the young woman processed this revelation. "And now he's back for revenge," Claire said quietly, "because you found him stealing again." Robert nodded grimly. "Tomorrow the FBI will arrest him based on evidence I've been gathering since the shooting. But tonight—" He looked at his daughter with anguished eyes. "Tonight, I need you to forgive me for the lies, Eliza. I was trying to protect what remained of your mother's memory." The silence that followed was shattered by the sound of breaking glass and a security alarm. Marcus had made his move, and as Robert reached for the panic button beneath his desk, he realized with cold clarity that the two women before him had become the most important people in his life, and now they were in danger because of him. 6 months later, Claire stood in the kitchen of her modest apartment, preparing dinner while Sophia and Eliza chatted about their upcoming graduation. The trial of Marcus Devlin had concluded with a life sentence for the murder of Catherine Mitchell and the attempted murder of Robert. The media frenzy had finally subsided, and life had settled into a new normal. "Mom, you're burning the sauce again," Sophia called out, her dark eyes twinkling. "Are you nervous about your dinner with Mr. Mitchell tomorrow?" Claire stirred the pasta sauce, her cheeks flushing slightly. "It's a business dinner. He wants to discuss the new trauma center at the hospital." Eliza and Sophia exchanged knowing glances. "Right," Eliza said, smiling. "That's why he called me 3 times to ask what kind of flowers you like." The doorbell rang, and Sophia went to answer it. Claire's heart skipped when Robert's voice carried from the entryway. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, more relaxed than she'd ever seen him, holding a bottle of wine and wearing casual clothes instead of his usual tailored suits. "I know I'm a day early," he said, his eyes finding Claire's, "but some things shouldn't wait." That evening, as the 4 of them shared a meal filled with laughter and easy conversation, Claire realized how skillfully Eliza had orchestrated this moment, bringing together 2 people who had locked away their hearts for very different reasons. What none of them could have predicted was that Robert's business rivals were already plotting their next move, one that would target the newly vulnerable billionaire through the people he had come to love. "I can't do this," Robert said firmly, pacing Claire's living room 3 months later. Their relationship had blossomed, surprising them both with its intensity and ease. "I can't put you in danger again." Claire crossed her arms. "This is about the threats from Westover Industries, isn't it? You're pulling away because you're scared." "Damn right I'm scared." Robert's voice rose with emotion. "I watched my wife die because of my world. I nearly lost my own life. And now Jensen Westover is systematically destroying my business partners because I won't sell him my company." He stepped closer, his eyes tormented. Yesterday, my head of security intercepted a file containing surveillance photos, of you, of Sophia. They're watching you, Claire. Claire felt ice in her veins but stood her ground. So your solution is to walk away? To decide for me that I can't handle being part of your life? Her voice softened. Robert, before you came into my life, I was fighting my own battles alone. We're stronger together. Robert turned away, conflict evident in every line of his body. I swore after Catherine died that I would never love again. It was the only way to ensure I wouldn't destroy another person I cared about. And how's that working for you? Claire asked gently, stepping into his line of vision. Because from where I stand, you've been loving your daughter fiercely every day. You've rebuilt your company with integrity. And for the past 3 months, you've been falling in love with me, even while fighting it every step of the way. As Robert looked into her eyes, the walls he had maintained for 6 years began to crumble completely. What he didn't realize was that his decision in this moment would set in motion events that would either finally heal his family's wounds, or tear apart everything they had built together. The annual Mitchell Foundation Gala transformed the New York Public Library into a wonderland of lights and elegance. For the first time, Robert had a partner by his side, Claire, radiant in a midnight blue gown, her hand comfortably in his as they greeted guests. Eliza and Sophia circulated nearby, both home from college for the summer. You know, everyone's talking about us, Claire murmured as they shared a private moment near the champagne fountain. The billionaire and the surgeon he fired his board member over. Robert's laugh was genuine, a sound that had become increasingly common. Let them talk. The new trauma center is fully funded, you're revolutionizing emergency medicine, and he paused, his expression growing serious. I'm happier than I've been in years. Across the room, Jensen Westover watched the couple with calculated interest, his handsome face masking cold ambition. When Eliza approached Robert and Claire, bringing a flute of champagne for her father, Westover's gaze followed her with disturbing intensity. Later that evening, as Robert prepared to address the gathered crowd, his security chief approached with urgent news. Robert's face darkened as he listened, his eyes finding Claire in the crowd, then searching frantically for Eliza. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert's voice carried across the suddenly silent room as he took the microphone, I apologize, but we must cut tonight's festivities short. Please exit calmly through the main doors. Claire made her way to his side. What's happening? Eliza's disappeared. His voice was tight with controlled panic. Security can't find her anywhere in the building, and they've discovered her phone in the ladies' room with a message. He showed Claire the screen, a photo of Eliza, unconscious, with text that read simply, your company for your daughter. 1 hour. As the gala emptied, Claire gripped Robert's arm. This is Westover, isn't it? Has to be. But something's not right. Robert's mind raced. This is too crude for Jensen. He's a shark, but he's calculating. This is... Dad. Eliza's voice cut through the hall as she hurried toward them, looking confused but unharmed. Why is everyone leaving? And why isn't my phone working? Relief flooded Robert's features as he embraced his daughter. You're okay? Where were you? The archives room. Professor Winters from my old prep school is here, and she was showing me some rare manuscripts. Eliza looked between them. What's going on? Before Robert could explain, an explosion rocked the building, sending plaster raining from the ornate ceiling. As security rushed toward them, Robert pulled Claire and Eliza close, his mind making connections with terrible clarity. It's not Jensen, he said grimly. It's Marcus's son. He's finishing what his father started. Dawn broke over the Mitchell estate, where Robert sat in his study with FBI agents and his security team. The attack at the gala had been thwarted, with minimal injuries and the bomber, indeed Marcus Devlin's son, David, in custody. The young man had blended into Westover's organization, using the rivalry as cover for his revenge plot. When Claire entered with coffee, the agents were leaving. Robert dismissed his security team, leaving them alone in the morning quiet. "Eliza's finally asleep," Claire said, setting down the mugs. "Sophia's with her." Robert looked exhausted but relieved. "The FBI says David Devlin has been planning this for years. He blames me for his father's imprisonment, his mother's suicide after the scandal." He rubbed his face. "More collateral damage from choices I made." Claire sat beside him, her presence steady. "The choices Marcus made, Robert. Not yours." They sat in comfortable silence, the morning light growing stronger. Finally, Robert reached into his desk drawer and withdrew a small velvet box. "I've been carrying this for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment." He met her eyes with vulnerability she'd never seen before. "Last night made me realize there is no perfect moment, only the moment we choose to take." Claire's breath caught as he opened the box, revealing a stunning emerald ring. "I swore I'd never love again after losing Catherine," Robert said softly. "I built walls to protect myself, to protect Eliza. But you and Sophia, you didn't break those walls down. You showed me how to build a door instead." He took her hand. "I love you, Claire. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Claire's eyes as she nodded, words momentarily beyond reach. As they embraced, Eliza appeared in the doorway, Sophia behind her, both young women witnessing the moment with quiet joy. Later, as the newly engaged couple walked the beach with their daughters, Robert reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From tragedy to healing, from isolation to family. The walls he had built had become the foundation for something stronger, a home where love wasn't a weakness to fear, but a strength to nurture. "You know," Eliza said, linking arms with her father, "Mom would have loved Claire." Robert smiled, watching Claire and Sophia ahead of them on the sand. "Yes," he said, peace finally settling in his heart. "I believe she would."